and let us all do we can to build a better future.
I think a lot of our viewing audience has been waiting for this story.
Oh, yeah.
It was our boy Fredo. What is going on?
It's a sad case of fettuccine out at CNN right now. Oh, boy. Hey, you ever work at a company where you are connected with someone that's sexually harassing a number of women, and then the company goes, no, you're fine, you can stay, it was different enough. Oh, right, no one. Okay, that's right, no one has that experience, just people on the very top. And then remember that then after that, you're like, I had nothing to do with it. It was just, I don't know, I'm not lying. I'm definitely not lying. And only to find out that someone leaked that you were, in fact, lying. And then that said company was like, you're fired, except they didn't. Because, of course, that would happen. They're like, you're suspended indefinitely, which is a nice way of saying you're suspended until people change their mind around you. Then we'll bring you back because your connections are why you've been hired in the first place.
Not because you do a good job.
No, not because you do a good job, but because you're well connected. And as a news organization, an authoritative one at that, they care about your political connections more than whether or not you helped someone in power abuse a number of women and their power, and then used a media organization to promote that, and then was like, oh, and then that whole thing with the vaccines I can't even talk about, where he's like, I'm sick now. Anyway, and then you can do all of that, and then also be the guy that's like, it's fettuccine al N-word. You get that right. I'm not a failure in this family. This guy is just an absolute failure, and it's an absolute disgrace that he's not fired. Again, we know the reason why, because they're waiting to give him another chance, because it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. They don't care. Everyone, this is my whole thing on like where PC is. All the people that are pushing the most with the most power for PC are the people that care the least about it, but are trying to get in front of their own terribleness by not acting. And that's, of course, corporations, because corporations are people, my friend. Anyway, I thought I'd hear it right from CNN themselves. They issued a very short video. They're probably not going to talk about it again, about how their boy, the guy that they stood with all this time after groups like us have said that he's terrible, after everyone said that he's terrible, and like, why is he even there? Oh, right, he's the failed son of a political dynasty. But let's hear it from a bunch of highly paid millionaires that have no idea what they're doing on what's happening next.
CNN is suspending anchor and our colleague, Chris Cuomo, indefinitely. New documents revealed he was more involved than previously known in shaping the defense for his brother, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who faced sexual misconduct allegations. Brian Stelter joins me now with the news on this. Brian.
Yeah, some news about our own house here, John. And of course, Chris, a former co-anchor of New Day, now CNN's primetime host, one of the highest rated hosts on CNN. This was a long time coming.
Do you hear that? That's the big news. That's the word. That's the key. That's the everything. One of the highest rated hosts, as in he brings us in the most money because he lied about who he is and everything's about and what he did and who he supported. But we don't need to go into that. He's highly rated. Let's keep playing the video.
Cuomo in the news all year long because of his brother and because of the scandal involving the now former governor. It was known that Chris Cuomo was talking to his brother, giving political advice. But in the newly released documents, you can see that Chris Cuomo is essentially working as an unpaid advisor and aide,
Pause it again.
as if he is a...
Man, it'd be nice if there was, I don't know, in those events, when the first set of events happened, if there were just some news organization that could dig deeper into the facts to make sure that something like this wouldn't happen. But I guess there is no news organization, is there? Let's keep going.
Staffer of the governor's, giving political advice, giving commentary, also working his own sources to try to find out more about what might be revealed about his brother. Here's the statement from CNN overnight about the suspension, saying, when Chris admitted to us that he had offered advice to his brother's staff, he broke our rules and we acknowledged that publicly. But we also appreciated the unique position he was in.
Okay, pause that. Pause that. Oh, there you go again. There you go again. Oh, man, we agreed that he broke rules that anyone else would have been fired for, but with his unique position and access to the ear of a New York governor and those sort of connections, we decided the rules didn't need to apply to him. And so when he said he had nothing to do with the thing that he had something to do with, we said, what are we, a news organization? Okay, you can stay.
And job second. However, these documents point to a greater level of involvement in his brother's efforts than we previously knew. And as a result, we have suspended Chris indefinitely pending further evaluation.
Okay.
So that's the statement.
Pause it
from
right
CNN.
there. Okay, so a couple things. Let me start with the second part first. For future evaluation, the entire problem that you're in this position to begin with is because of future evaluation standards that you've applied to this case and to begin with. So what CNN is saying, and as I said already, is he's suspended hopefully without pay, maybe a stipend, I don't know, indefinitely until something in the future happens, i.e., we'd really like to get him back. That dude was making a lot of money. We really don't care at all that he was helping sexually harass women. Who cares about sexually harassing women? This is CNN. We're not about that life. We're not even a news organization. We're just an authoritative source to some that can throw their weight around. But we have to investigate further. Can anyone tell me anyone in your life that has gotten away with more than that? How many people in any amount of companies could be outed for sexual harassment or assisting with someone doing so in a very blatant way, admit that, yes, he broke the rules in doing that, but he's okay to stay. It was a unique situation. He was connected. And then when more documents come out, go, oh, we had no idea that the person was doing the thing that they said they were doing, that they also denied doing. We took them at their word, even though they lied about being truthful. We're CNN. By the way, isn't it fascinating how the authoritative sources seem to have the most people either directly or adjacent to criminals?
If
I can add in something here real quick. First of all, Daniel, you said everything that needed to be said, but there's a couple other things too that CNN, an authoritative source on social media, especially on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Hey, YouTube! Talking to you for a second, YouTube, because after all, you give CNN and Fox and MSNBC so much clout and so much. Are you going to actually, I guess, hold CNN's YouTube channel accountable for the fact that good old Chris Cuomo was doing some very shady things that no journalist or any respectable journalist outlet should do? Are you going to demonetize his videos now? Are you going to start suppressing CNN? I also want to add something else because this is very important, what's enraging me.
Devastating point, Ken.
Yes, hold on. There's a couple other devastating points I want to say to CNN and to YouTube and CNN's YouTube channel. Chris Cuomo, a journalist, who is giving advice to his political brother, a very powerful position, governor. A governor that's dealing with scandals. Now, first, I want to say one thing to the women who have heroically stepped forward. They did the right thing by doing so. This is one scandal. But there's a few other scandals, too, that need to be addressed. Let's talk about the deaths of American citizens in the state of New York, senior citizens whose friends and families are still asking questions about why many of their deaths were omitted from the records. Especially when, during the height of the pandemic, New York State was saying at the time that they had low death rates. Turns out that number is far higher. Those are flesh and blood human beings. Was Chris Cuomo, giving advice to his brother in regards to how to handle that nursing home disaster too? What about the fact that when Daniel covered on our show, where, I don't know, Governor Cuomo was using prison labor to make hand sanitizer. Did Chris Cuomo give him advice about how to handle that little scandal as well? What about, using state resources to write his also fantastic book about leadership? Did Chris Cuomo give him advice on that too? You see CNN as a journalist outlet. Remember, one of your boys, I covered this on the show, said he wants CNN to go back to its roots of journalism. So I guess your roots of journalism, I guess CNN really truly isn't a journalist outlet. Now, is it? Now, these are some very questionable behaviors from CNN, and the fact that you choose to suspend him indefinitely, these are grounds of being fired, because how much advice did Chris Cuomo give to Andrew Cuomo in regards to all these scandals, including the women who have come forward about the abuse allegations and so much more? These are questions that then I have to ask YouTube, its policy. What are you going to do to CNN's YouTube channel now? YouTube, what are you going to, because these are some questionable things, because I know if Hard Lens Media did this, or any other independent media network did this, you'd come on down them with a hammer. Because I know when we covered that story about Joe Rogan being smeared by CNN, YouTube, you smeared us and you said that we were talking about medical misinformation. We were talking about how CNN was just smearing Joe Rogan. That's all I want to say. I know you want to add in something, and I know Kira does too.
Quick point that ties into what we said right before Kira jumps in. You know what is a real injustice in this world right now? The fact that CNN is declared an authoritative source when they are not a journalistic organization that doesn't have an investigative team. They just are a bunch of reactors that take themselves a bit too seriously and get paid quite a bit too much from rich families where they failed as useful parts of that family. The real tragedy is that Cuomo's segments are still on YouTube and they're still generating high CPM money for CNN, and that's fine with YouTube and Twitter. But if someone like, I don't know, Case Study QB takes that content and clips it and puts it on Twitter, all of a sudden, now it's fake news. This is the structure that we live in.
Kira, your commentary.
Oh man, I don't know that I can really add much to that. I mean, other than this is a classic conflict of interest situation. It's always been a conflict of interest. And so it's funny in that clip they mention, he's the highest rated and he brings in the most money. And they do that to show how integrous they are, when in reality, they have been letting this fly under the radar all of these years and just raking in all of the benefits and money that go along with having someone like Cuomo on the air. I mean, it was hilarious. My husband this morning said, oh, hey, they're suspending, Cuomo indefinitely because apparently he had a lot more to do, with this whole scandal with his brother. And I was like, well, yeah, they're brothers. And when that is my reaction, then what that tells me is that this was always a conflict of interest. This isn't new. And the fact that it was allowed to go on for so long is insulting, I guess, is what's there for me.
And that's the thing that people need to remember fundamentally about what we're talking about. What we're talking about, like for us, it's like we're kind of like YouTube is like put us in a position where we're sort of screwed in terms of being able to really invest a lot more into what Hardlands does. And because of the way the economy is, we can't really fully lean into Patreon. It's like, the amount of people that have discretionary funds to spend are basically already doing that. So we have a history, our first 2 years especially, of just doing nothing but investigative pieces, going out, talking to people, finding what's happening. And that is not easy work to do. Nor on that time, Facebook was not promoting it. It's not easy work to do. And so we have a little bit of an actual reason, which is we just don't have as many hours in the day to do all of the stuff we're doing, and then also constantly, we just need more people to help. We need more work hours that we just can't find. CNN, but the point is that our thought is, in a bigger step, is we want people that are committed to doing this, that are looking to find truth and spread it to the masses. CNN, NBC, Fox do not operate in that fashion. The way they operate with individual hires is, do you have a connection in the Senate? Do you have a connection in the House? Do you have a connection on the executive branch? Do you have a connection in the judiciary? Oh, you don't? Get out of my office. Oh, you were an investigative reporter that for 10 years did this and this and exposed all these things. Get out. We're not interested. We live at a time where the authoritative sources fire journalists that don't have sources of people in power. That's what they call journalism. I call it a circle jerk. That's what is it? Yellow journalism. It's not accomplishing anything. All they're really saying is, hey, do you have a line to this person? And again, if you set that up in that way, what of course happens? Well, you call the person up and you go, hey, what are you doing? And they say something that's not good. Do you go, oh, that's really, why would you do that? Oh, you lost your source and then you got fired. So instead, what do? You spin it. You act as a spin doctor and you spin it. And that's exactly what Cuomo did the entire time with his brother. He was the source to a huge amount of power and influence in New York City and around that because of his connections of his family. Again, that's why they take the failures of these big families and throw them in there, because that's the only thing they're really good for is access to connections and networking. The second, again, so that's why they don't hire people like you and me into a CNN position. It's because all they care about is those connections and if you have enough ratings. Because, let me say this is going to be really weird. They're entertainment channels. And that's how entertainment channels measure things. The way that CNN measures their success is the way that I measure success on their reaction channel where we laugh at video games. Same metric, done the exact same way for the exact same reason, because they have not, for a very long time, been a news organization. They just brand themselves as one.
But Dan, remember, there was that guy who's connected to CNN who wants to see CNN evolve back to its roots. Oh, wait, that was never its roots in the first place. Oh, we're having a little bit too much fun with the story, so I think we should end this on a humorous note. Fredo, it was you, Fredo. It was you. Oh, well. That's a little Godfather reference. Anyways, folks, hey, let's have some democracy in the chat. Type 1 if you think CNN will ever return back to its journalistic roots. Type 2 if you think, God damn it, never. So there we go.